In the final centuries before the Minoan civilization vanished from history, Crete stood as a shadow of its former self. Once, the island's palaces glowed with vibrant colors, and its harbors teemed with ships carrying exotic goods from Egypt, the Levant, and lands even further afield. But now, the very foundations of this world were trembling. What destroyed the Minoans? Was it the fury of nature, the swords of invaders, or secrets lost to time itself? Let's step back to one of those days when the world was changing. Imagine Knossos at its height, a city of innovation, artistry, and confidence. The air is thick with the scent of incense and sea salt. Merchants haggle in the market, and priests lead processions in honor of gods who seem ever-present. But beneath the daily routine, cracks are beginning to form. Earthquakes, always a threat in this volatile region, begin to strike with terrifying frequency. The ground itself shakes, palaces shudder, and columns collapse. The people of Crete, so skilled at building, now find themselves rebuilding again and again, as if the gods are growing restless. Yet, even these tremors pale beside what would follow. On the distant island of Thera, a volcanic mountain rumbles ominously. For days, then weeks, the sky grows dark. Then, suddenly, with a roar that echoes across the ages, Thera explodes. The eruption is one of the most violent in human memory. Ash clouds billow into the stratosphere. The sun disappears behind a veil of darkness, and the sea itself turns deadly. Tsunamis race across the Aegean, smashing into the Cretan coast, sweeping away ports and villages in a heartbeat. Ash rains down, choking crops and poisoning the land. For the Minoans, whose lifeblood is trade and agriculture, this is nothing short of apocalyptic. Archaeologists to this day find evidence of this devastation. Thick layers of volcanic ash, collapsed roofs, hurried repairs, and skeletons buried in ruined homes. The eruption of Thera didn't just destroy, it destabilized. With crops failing, famine stalked the land. Trade routes, once the veins of Minoan wealth, were blocked or abandoned. The world the Minoans had built, so interconnected and prosperous, began to unravel. But disaster rarely comes alone. As the Minoans struggled to recover, new threats emerged from across the sea. The Mycenaeans, rising to power on the Greek mainland, were a different kind of people, warriors, strategists, and builders of massive fortresses. They worshipped a pantheon of warlike gods, valued strength above subtlety, and looked upon the riches of Crete with hungry eyes. Was it a sudden invasion or a gradual infiltration? The archaeological record remains ambiguous. What is clear is that after the eruption, Mycenaean influence on Crete increases dramatically. Linear B tablets begin to appear, replacing the enigmatic script of the Minoans. Mycenaean weapons, pottery, and religious artifacts are found in what were once purely Minoan sites. Some palaces bear the scars of fire and violence. Others seem to have been abandoned without a fight, as if the will to resist simply faded away. Inside the ruined halls of Knossos, rulers and priests attempt to restore order. They organize rebuilding efforts, lead rituals to appease angry gods, and try to rally the people. But the Golden Age is over. The art changes. Gone are the joyful scenes of dolphins and lilies, replaced by images of chariots, warriors, and the tools of war. The palaces, once open and airy, become more closed and defensive. Old religious practices blend with new, and the gods of the Greeks begin to replace the ancient deities of Crete. Yet, the end is not swift. Minoan civilization does not vanish in a single night. Instead, it is a slow and painful decline, a drama played out over generations. Some communities retreat to isolated valleys or mountain sanctuaries, clinging to the old ways. Others accept the Mycenaean order, blending traditions in a last, desperate attempt to survive. The palaces, once centers of innovation and culture, fall silent, haunted by stories of lost gods, vanished wealth, and the relentless passage of time. All the while, the people search for meaning amid catastrophe. Was this the punishment of the gods? Did the world end because of a forgotten sin, a broken vow, or rituals performed incorrectly? Priests and priestesses struggle to interpret omens, seeking hope in the stars and the smoke of burnt offerings. But the decline was not just about disaster and defeat. It was also a time of adaptation and resilience. The survivors innovate, finding new ways to farm, trade, and worship. Small villages rise where once grand cities stood. The spirit of the Minoans, creative, adaptable, and enduring, lives on, even in the shadow of collapse. Outside Crete, word of the Cataclysm spreads. Traders and travelers bring stories of the ruined palaces, the blackened skies, and the silent harbors. In distant lands, the fall of the Minoans is remembered as a warning. Even the greatest civilizations can fall, undone by forces beyond their control. And yet, there are mysteries that remain. Why did some palaces burn while others were left untouched? Were there uprisings from within as rival factions fought for control in a world falling apart? Did the Mycenaeans come as conquerors, or were they invited in as allies turned rulers? Every answer leads to more questions. The archaeological puzzles deepen. In some sites, weapons are found buried with the dead, suggesting hurried burials during times of violence. In others, offerings are made to new gods, as if the people were desperately seeking favor from any power that might listen. The art tells the story of a society grappling with fear and change. Scenes of battle and flight replacing the old symbols of harmony. Throughout this decline, the Minoan labyrinth endures as a symbol. Once a place of ritual and myth, it now becomes a metaphor for the confusion and uncertainty of a world in collapse. The Minotaur, once a sacred beast, is reimagined in later Greek myth as a monster to be slain, a reflection of how the world sees the fallen Minoans. Yet, even as their civilization fades, the Minoans leave behind a legacy that cannot be erased. Their innovations in art, architecture, and religion influence the Mycenaeans, and through them, the Greeks. The legend of the labyrinth and the cataclysmic fall of Crete are woven into the fabric of Western imagination. Today, as archaeologists uncover new layers of Knossos and other sites, each discovery brings us closer to understanding the truth, but also reveals how much remains unknown. Was the fall of the Minoans a unique tragedy, or part of a broader Bronze Age collapse that shook the ancient world? Did their gods abandon them, or did they simply fail to adapt to a changing world? As the dust of catastrophe settled across Crete, the survivors of the once great Minoan civilization faced a landscape transformed by disaster and conflict. The palaces that had once echoed with music, laughter, and ritual were now silent, their stones blackened by fire or buried beneath layers of volcanic ash. Yet, even in ruin, these places held on to secrets, whispers of lost gods, faded glory, and unanswered questions that continue to haunt historians and seekers of mystery. In the years following the eruption of Thera and the Mycenaean takeover, Crete did not simply vanish from the map. Instead, the island entered a long twilight. Remnants of Minoan culture persisted in isolated hamlets and mountain sanctuaries, where old rituals quietly endured away from the gaze of new rulers. In these hidden corners, villagers still poured libations to the mother goddess, still painted spirals and double axes on pottery, and still told stories of time when the world was ruled by priestesses, bulls, and labyrinths. Yet, the influence of the Mycenaeans was undeniable. Their language, Linear B, became the new script of administration and trade. Mycenaean pottery flooded the markets, and their gods, more stern and warlike, crept into the pantheon once dominated by the gentle, enigmatic Minoan deities. The palaces, though repaired, bore new marks: fortification walls, weapons and burials, and murals depicting warriors rather than dancers and dolphins. Crete was no longer the peaceful thalassocracy of old. It had become a frontier in a world increasingly defined by conflict and power. But the transformation was not total. Archaeological evidence reveals a blending of traditions, a kind of cultural negotiation. In some tombs, Mycenaean and Minoan artifacts are found side by side, suggesting intermarriage and cooperation as well as conquest. In others, old Minoan symbols are repurposed. The labyrinths, once a sacred sign of renewal, now appears alongside the imagery of battle and dominion. Even as the Mycenaeans asserted their authority, the memory of the great catastrophe lingered. Generations would look upon the ruined palaces and wonder, why did the gods allow such destruction? Was it a punishment for pride, for forgotten rituals, or for some secret sin? Priests and oracles offered explanations, but none could fully dispel the sense of loss. In this fertile ground, legends flourished. The myth of Atlantis, famously recounted by Plato centuries later, may have its roots in the destruction of Minoan Crete and the Thera eruption. Plato described a powerful, advanced civilization swallowed by the sea in a single day and night of misfortune. A story that fits eerily well with the fate of the Minoans. Did travelers carry tales of Crete's fall to distant shores, where they were transformed into fable? Or is the legend of Atlantis a memory of another, even older disaster? The debate continues, fueling books, documentaries, and endless speculation. Within Crete itself, stories of the labyrinth and the Minotaur took on new meanings. The labyrinth, once a place of initiation and cosmic order, became a symbol of lost knowledge and a warning about the dangers of hubris. The Minotaur, too, changed, no longer merely a monster, but a tragic figure, a reminder of the dual nature of power and the thin line between civilization and chaos. As centuries passed, the ruins of Knossos and other palaces faded into the landscape. Wildflowers and vines reclaimed the stone, and shepherds led flocks over the once sacred grounds. Yet, the legends endured, passed down in folk tales, and woven into the traditions of later Greek settlers. The memory of the Minoans became a ghostly presence, part history, part myth, always mysterious. It was only in the modern era, with the excavations of Sir Arthur Evans and others, that the world rediscovered the true scale and sophistication of the Minoans. The uncovering of Knossos, with its dazzling frescoes and enigmatic symbols, brought the lost civilization back into the light. Yet, even as archaeologists pieced together the story, new mysteries emerged. Linear A, the Minoan script, remains undeciphered. Was it a language of trade, of ritual, or of secrets known only to the priesthood? What truths lie hidden in those unreadable lines? The question of the Minoan collapse is also far from settled. Was the Thera eruption the sole cause, or did other forces, earthquakes, drought, invasion, internal conflict, combine to bring down the palaces? Some researchers point to evidence of social unrest and rebellion, with signs of violence and hurried burials suggesting that not all deaths were due to natural disaster. Others argue for a slow decline. As trade shifted, resources dwindled, and the world moved on. What is certain is that the Minoan civilization, though fallen, never truly disappeared. Its influence can be seen in the art, religion, and myths of the Mycenaeans, the Greeks, and even later cultures. The labyrinth remains an enduring symbol, reimagined in countless forms, from the puzzles of ancient philosophers to the mazes of modern literature and film. The Minotaur, too, continues to haunt our dreams, a creature both terrifying and pitiable, a reflection of the mysteries we all carry within. Today, visitors to Crete can walk the ruined halls of Knossos, stand beneath the bright Cretan sky, and try to imagine the world as it once was. They can trace the patterns of ancient frescoes, peer into the darkness of collapsed corridors, and listen for the echoes of voices long gone. For many, the experience is transformative, a reminder that history is alive, that every ruin holds a story, and that the past is never truly lost. And so, the final question remains, what can we learn from the fall of the Minoans? Is it a warning about the fragility of civilization, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, or simply a mystery to be pondered and enjoyed? Perhaps it is all these things, a labyrinth of meaning, inviting us to enter and explore. If you've enjoyed this journey through the final days of the Minoans, their catastrophes, their legends, and their enduring mysteries, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Kingdoms of Mystery, and share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. What do you believe truly ended the Minoan civilization? Which mystery intrigues you the most? Join the discussion and stay with us as we continue to explore the greatest enigmas of the ancient world.